You want to fight crime? Let's get dangerous.
And yes, it is showtime. And guess what? We are here. It's another Saturday, and we might have another short show for you this evening. But nevertheless, welcome to another episode of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. I'm your host, Joe D. McPhee here. And as the show note states, this is Small Business Saturday. Yes, we are here in 2024 with another Small Business Saturday that is among us as of right now. For those that are on the East Coast, there's a little less than 2 more hours to shop your local businesses to give them patronage and everything here. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. And like I said, it might be a short show depending on you out there watching in TV land here on YouTube and on Twitch and on Facebook here. Hopefully you guys had a great Thanksgiving holiday here and you didn't overspend on yesterday on Black Friday. Like I said, we are here on Small Business Friday, but we still got Cyber Monday coming up this upcoming Monday here. But nevertheless, it looks like we're going to cruise right into December without a hitch here. I believe today is the last day of November. So starting tomorrow, we'll be in the first day of December. The weather has changed and everything. We're, feeling the effects here in Chicago and everything. But before we really get into our show here, you know how we do each and every show. We have to do the business end of things, such as letting you guys know about Stupid O'Clock, which happens 1 hour into our show, which is 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If we go into the second hour, I don't think we're going to probably finish the first hour here, to be quite honest. It depends, like I said, it depends on you guys there. If we have an interactive chat, we will do that as a whole here. Also, on top of that, that is followed up by Last Man Standing at 1 a.m. Eastern. And then you get a little bit of a respite until Monday when you have Nevermind the Furthermore with Nicholas Tockert at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And yes, this upcoming Thursday, keeping our fingers crossed that we will have another Comic Book Spectrum right here on this channel at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. It will be myself, Clyde, and Elaine here. Hopefully, we never know when Eric may pop back in, or Brian K. Morris, or a Brian Rodman. So, the whole gang could be here sometime soon. Hopefully we might have a good, reunion Christmas special and everything here. But let's get on with the rest of the show. And that means we need to talk about new comic book pickups for the week. Unfortunately, it's a very short new comic book pickups for the week. Why? Because it's only 2 books. So we don't have to pre-record anything. So the 2 books that we got in this week here is Challengers of the Unknown 75 and Challengers of the Unknown 77 here. And these are pretty much books kind of like, the old school sci-fi, men versus unknown circumstances and everything to that magnitude here. Just kind of like one of those weird sci-fi adventure type things. Doesn't really get into the horror aspect of it, but it's more like super scientists getting, super scientists and athletes, trying to solve the unknown per se that they come across. But it is what it is. It's a decent series. It's one of those older series that I kind of dig as a whole here. Oh, we got somebody already here. Oh, we got Tori in the house. How are you doing, Tori? It's like, yeah, it came because I saw that you were alone and no fun. Well, yeah, it's no fun talking to yourself. It really is. Unless I have like something that I wanted to rant about. I don't have anything to rant about. It really isn't, one of those type of Saturdays where, I kind of fed up or anything to that magnitude. And if I did, we'll be talking about something within geek culture terms here, dealing with gaming, because I've been playing this one game called 3-on-3 Freestyle. And that game, if you ever followed my not Facebook, my YouTube channel for gaming, where I have a lot of my Street Fighter stuff on. I've been putting a lot of the 3-on-3 freestyle out there on that channel just to prove how broken that game is and why, I could have fun with it to a certain degree as long as I play low level matches. But if I play actual 3-on-3 with random people on the highest level matches, highest tier matches, it is no fun whatsoever. I mean, you will swear that with how these characters do certain things here, it's not a normal game of basketball at all. And with people having crappy connections, you swear that they're cheating. And even in some of the videos that I have out there on my gaming channel from this game, I actually showed where players would get out of sync. And when I say out of sync, it would be almost as you're in the middle of a play and one of the opposing characters would like stop, and you're up here trying to steal the ball away from them, do all this other stuff, and it would just not happen. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, points appear on their side of the board and the game resyncs itself. So you have no opportunity to defend against what they did. And it's really that bad. I mean, it's just, I could understand if I actually paid money for this game, I would be highly upset. But this is like one of those free, PlayStation Network type games for the month. So it kind of worked out in the long run. And kind of ranting about that really wouldn't serve any purpose because I'm still playing it, trying to get understand the game and try to figure out other nuances about that, but kind of tolerate the forced factor of playing with random people on teams that don't even have the same mentality nor want to play the game the way that's supposed to be played. So it's just it's kind of is what it is. But hopefully, Tori, your Thanksgiving was very good and everything here. I know that you said that, you capitalized on Black Friday with some good purchases. So I'm glad that that had happened for you. And, pretty much that's what we're going to talk about here. The important purpose of, well, actually, I talked about that last year too, but the important purpose of Small Business Saturday. It keeps people like myself, and if you were paying attention to my Facebook post from earlier, I was on Honorary Compton's show, kicking it with Honorary, the live shopping show. And I was doing claim sales. That was one of my first claim sales that I have ever done on Facebook and YouTube as a whole. Normally I do like whatnot sales and periodic sales here and there, but that was my first claim sale. And I did okay. I did okay for what I was expecting to have happen here. And it looks like Tori says, yeah, I got caught up on my Wonder Woman. Can you explain how Steve got the Greek death? It made no sense to me. I haven't gotten to that issue as of yet. Hopefully, I'm keeping my fingers crossed because all of my books, especially my Wonder Woman books, from like issue, I want to say like 6 on, would be, well, not 6 on because I got 6. What's the last issue that I got? Was it 8? For issue 8 on? For issue 8 on, for issue 8 on, will be here. I could finish reading it. But my understanding of what happening with Steve is that Steve was pretty much in her mind. That Steve doesn't exist. And this is the whole thing about the Tom King run that I didn't understand about the Lasso of Lies. Because the Lasso of Lies was actually used on her, and she was trapped in her own mind with whatever lie that was implanted into her from that lasso. So I don't understand the whole thing. If Steve did get the Greek death, it's probably something that was in her mind that kind of made him seem that it was honorable for him to die that way in her mind. So I don't know as of yet. Yeah, you can punch the ferryman. Yeah. Oh boy, why are you going to punch the ferryman? That's just causing more and more trouble in her neck of the woods. But then again, that would be something that Yara probably would have done, because I believe Yara actually crossed over using the ferryman in the first place in Future State Wonder Woman, if I remember that story correctly. But that's a whole different story. And for those who haven't read Future State Wonder Woman 1 and 2, both of those books were the first appearance of Yara Fleur as Wonder Woman. And it was a very good story, dealing with her tribesmen and everything to that magnitude, and the fact that she went to Tartarus or something like that, Tartarus, to save a member of her tribe who supposedly died. And it was a great story. It was weird and convoluted about how she got there, but it shows the nature of how Yara really is deep down. And I could appreciate it. Why? Oh my, okay. I have to keep thinking this is Tom King, and Tom King is up here. I'm going to have my Dark Knight Returns in Wonder Woman type scenarios. Oh boy, there will be no need to punch the ferryman. Matter of fact, in Greek lore, if you did something like that, that's your ass. That's your ass. It's like the ferryman doesn't play. There is a reason why you ask for the ferryman, because you can't swim the river Styx and survive. So pretty much you punch the ferryman for what? For him to knock you over to the river Styx and keep on going? I don't know. But again, that's I'm not looking forward to that. Just like how I did not look forward to issue 7 or 8 with the whole browbeating and Bible thumping by the what we call it? I can't even think of his name here, that had the Lasso of Lies. That to me irritated me. Yeah, I haven't stopped reading my books. I was like, I have to stop reading my books after that, because I was like, what the? I would have been I would have been like, really? I would have been like, really? This is not Steve Trevor like. Not by any means, considering the fact that he would have known enough about Greek lore to not to do it. I mean, I don't know. It's just, anyway, I'm kind of waiting for the next creative team to get on Wonder Woman. That's what I'm actually waiting for. I mean, what he did, 14 issues so far? 14, Tom King did 14 issues, and we're still not out of that story arc as of yet. Because I'm up here, like, everything that's going on is getting very, very convoluted as far as why people are being involved and what is the ultimate end goal, and the whole thing was like, why would there be a whole thing with her and Cheetah? It is just like it's I don't know. It just seems like other people are telling better stories dealing with Wonder Woman history and the Wonder Woman family than he is. All because he got a hard on for the type of story that he wants to tell, with nobody asked for or wanted in fandom as far as Wonder Woman is concerned. But the caveat to this is, and this is the one thing that it's a tough pill to swallow for people like you and me, Tori. He is bringing new people into the fandom. I don't think these newer readers will go back and read the stuff that we love. And I have a sneaky suspicion once the creative team changes, it goes back to status quo, that people will go back to sleeping on Wonder Woman as far as picking it up on a monthly basis. Sad but true. Now, the one other thing that I haven't read as of yet, and I think you probably have already read it, is Absolute Wonder Woman. I do have a copy of Absolute Wonder Woman #1, but it's the foil. And I have to wait until the rest of them gets here for I could actually read it, absorb it, and see if I like it or not. It's like my brain short circuit and I have to stop. Yeah, because it again, different writers see Wonder Woman differently, and only a handful will go back into the lore correctly. Like, for example, New 52 Wonder Woman was a throwback, but it was done in such a way and people hated the art that people just didn't like it. But the writers did their homework as far as the lore was concerned. Rebirth, not so much. The Dotson run before Gail Simone, it was okay. But I can understand why everybody loved Perez run. And to me, if you love Perez run, you would have loved New 52. But, it wasn't there here. I like Batgirl 1 a lot. Again, that's another series that I just wouldn't be able to pick up and just take off running with for the Absolute series. But everybody's curious about what I'm thinking about Absolute Wonder Woman 1. And if I really wanted to read it, I have it. And I'm not joking. Give me 1 second here. I honestly do have it. There it is. That's the foil Absolute Wonder Woman 1. But because it's the foil, I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to put fingerprints and stuff all over it, because you never know. I might end up getting this one encapsulated. I know I have another one coming, but it's always good to have more than one. But that's kind of like the thing as a whole here. Other things that I'm looking forward to reading, since I know books are coming here. Oh, there she is. There's Parallax. There's Parallax. Where have you been? You have been AWOL for quite some time. There are about 17,000 covers, and it will have 9 prints. Yeah, that's when I began to learn about modern publishing here. I guess you missed comic book pickups for the week, so knowing how Parallax is, like, I'm here now, start over. Here it is. Challengers of the Unknown 75 and Challengers of the Unknown 77. That was new comic book pickups for the week. So the show officially started over, and we're going back into our talk about stuff that we were talking about here, such as the so-called death of Steve Trevor in the Tom King run, Wonder Woman run, and we was talking about the Absolute series. New Spider-Man made me happy. What new Spider-Man? You talking about Ultimate Spider-Man, the new Ultimate Spider-Man, or what new Spider-Man? Because I probably have not been keeping up here. Because I'm barely been keeping up with Birds of Prey. I now finally having to pull Catwoman again for me. I got my Wonder Woman back. Plastic Man is now officially over, so all of my Plastic Mans are coming now. I mean, I like me some Eel O'Brien, and I still get a chuckle about how in Injustice, Insurgent Superman was afraid of Eel O'Brien, and Eel O'Brien proved why he should be feared. that's the cool thing about Eel O'Brien. And to think, oh, that reminds me, Parallax, I did get the fact. Hopefully, it's in this shipment here. The facsimile of Police Comics #1, where Plastic Man makes his first appearance. I think I got the facsimile coming here. There's a lot of books between everything that Michael Curl is sending me and everything that that Randy Tusha is sending me. There's going to be a week where it's just going to be like, okay, we're going to probably be sitting here for about like 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour, just going through books and new stuff that came in. And she's going, yay. 8 deaths. Ooh, really? It was 8 deaths? Wow. Yikes. So that's a lot of stuff here. That's a lot of deaths to deal with in a comic book series. I'm trying to think what else am I getting that I'm looking forward to. I don't know. I'm looking forward for like the Catwoman, the Wonder Woman stuff that I've been missing. Oh, the Birds of Prey. That if they still running Birds of Prey, we're looking for all of that here. I know I got some more Gen 13 and odds and ends stuff coming here. It's about time they put out storylines that is decent in ASM America. Oh, you're talking about the relaunching of Amazing Spider-Man. I'm really not going to be too in if I could say too enthusiastic in getting Amazing Spider-Man. Not a big Spider-Man fan here, but Phil Coulson is Death Row, and I'm confused. Whoa, they brought back Coulson? Okay. Oh yeah, you're there. Beanie and Lil. You both are there, or just you? But Phil Coulson is on Death Row. Wow. This is going to be interesting. Yep. Okay. So both of you are there. Cool. Phil Coulson. That makes me wonder, why haven't they brought out another Shield book? At one time, everybody was talking about Agents of Shield, and there was so many Shield books out there, and now just like there's no sword books, they just like disappear into the ether. What in the world Marvel am I getting? I don't think I'm getting any Marvel books anymore, which is strange because they didn't sell. Yeah, well, actually, they did when the TV show was running. They did sell. When the TV show was running, they did sell. But the thing about it is, like now, there's no need. I don't think people are clamoring for a return of Nick Fury and Shield or Phil Coulson and Shield. I don't know. I don't know what it is or why it is, but it is what it is. It's a Doctor Doom and Spidey story. It's meats and potatoes. I'm so over Marvel trying to ram Doctor Doom down our throats. We know that he's one of the greatest. If I'm not going to call him a villain. He's one of the greatest anti-heroes of comic book history. But I'm tired of Marvel trying to ram it down our throats in hopes that whatever movie that they put him in succeeds. We already got great Doctor Doom stories. You don't need to create filler stories just to get newer people into them. And yeah, what was 10 years ago? Get over it. I am over it. I'm not saying we need this stuff. I'm just saying, it's just kind of weird that nobody's talking about that anymore. Like it just fell off the face of the earth. Just like the whole thing about we still got an Iron Fist title, even though that show is, and that show was not stellar either. Doom is Sorcerer Supreme and chooses Spider-Man to be his champion. Migraine headache. Migraine headache. Thank you for the headache. I'm assuming that won't be for long. Because again, it's been several years since we have the Strange series where Clea was Sorcerer Supreme. They eventually brought back Stephen Strange. How in the God's blue earth did Doom become Sorcerer Supreme all of a sudden? It's because Marvel said so, because we got a story. It's not like these people would just go away and they say, "Here, Doom, you're the new Sorcerer Supreme." No, there's trials and tribulations that goes into it if they follow proper lore. But I don't put it past these non-editors to actually go back and do their homework. So it is what it is. Because we could sell Doom books because of Robert Downey Jr. I agree. He wouldn't last as Sorcerer Supreme. That's the problem. Doom. Okay. How can I put this? Doom versus Dormammu. Doom may beat Dormammu in the very beginning, but he would probably do something stupid that leads Dormammu in such a way where he becomes more powerful later on, and it would be something of Doom's fault where it's like, oh, I can no longer beat him, therefore I have to figure out another way to trap him somewhere else. That's Doom as Sorcerer Supreme in a nutshell, because that's just the way Doom is. Doom is not dumb. Doom would do a lot of great things, but would get in his own way. I'm not saying that he can't beat Dormammu, but in the way that he did it, he would have did something that eventually later on down the line that would eventually either help him along the way or allow Dormammu to take something else over. That's just the way Doom is. But again, that's just them ramming Doom down our throats here. I have to reread that one. I do have to reread that one. Yes. And that proves that book actually proves that Doom can wield the same level of magic that Stephen Strange could. He could wield the same level of magic that Claire could. But him being Sorcerer Supreme is never going to be a good thing. I don't think he will be able to pass all the trials and be acknowledged as a Sorcerer Supreme for Earth. Maybe on an alternate Earth, maybe. But 616, no. No. Never going to happen. Unless they do that as a whole here. Oh, what do you guys think about Ultimates? I heard in Ultimates they're going to make Reed Doom in Ultimates now. That the maker is officially making Reed Richards the Doom for that universe, which is interesting. That's going to be interesting. They're kind of cut from the same cloth, but I feel that Reed would be more dangerous than Victor. And Parallax said, it did happen. I saw it happen. Don't tell me it didn't happen. It's like anything new. Mixing Reed with Victor. It's like they're all wokey. It's like all of these wokies think that they're being something, reinventing. Okay, they are reinventing the wheel. The one thing, if I was writing it, this Doom would be one of the most dangerous Dooms ever, because unlike Victor, Reed would do things and think about the consequences later. And you know I'm telling the truth, Parallax. You know I'm telling the truth. There's a lot of things that Reed has done in Fantastic Four that it's like, oh yeah, we're going to go over here to explore this, but we're going to open up a portal to the negative zone, and all these beings are going to come out. Oh, we'll deal with that later, but we need to go investigate this now. Excuse me, Reed? You going to let Annihilus through and think nothing of it just because you want to go and examine this one rare molecule that's only in the negative zone? Right. And now you're going to have similar mindset of Doom with that type of neglect for consequences. Right. And I hate that they keep doing Dead Galactus when like 20 years they did Galactus died, and they show this must always be a Galactus to keep a balance. Again, there will always, you and I have read enough where they cannot overwrite Earth X. Because if they overwrite Earth X, that would mean that they would have to rewrite Franklin Richards' destiny. Because remember, Franklin becomes the next Galactus. If Galactus is dead and they're trying to keep him dead, then what would be the purpose of Franklin at this point? Franklin is doing all this stuff to be what? Just an afterthought? That none of the stuff that he's going through would be ever canon that will lead to him becoming Galactus? I don't know. I just don't know. After Johnny died, it's like there was a great page where Reed is in the Baxter building and he has a small portal to the negative zone. He puts his hands in with the note. Yeah, I'm not. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to use the ultimate nullifier outside of Mephisto's realm. I remember that. That like I said, Reed don't think about consequences of his actions. It's like, I'm about to do this because it needs to be done or it needs to be researched. I don't care about the consequences. I deal with the consequences a little bit later. Why? Because I'm a scientist. And Annihilus just showed him a piece of Johnny's uniform with the 4. Yep. I mean, Reed, I don't know. I don't know. Is it just me? Is it, and maybe I'm wrong with this. And I'm not trying to be an old head. It's like, to me, the modern stories that are being told would be so much better if they took in consideration of the lore. We're not saying, we're not always saying keep everything contiguous to what has been done before. But if you understand how myth telling and lore telling is, there's always a different spin that you could put on something that has already been told that makes it brand new for another generation. That's what makes good mythos so valid, that it lasts generation to generation, because there will always be some type of new spin on it that keeps the younger generation interested in it. Or have an editor that knows the lore to be like, can't do that. Galactus has already did that 22 years ago. You know what? You're going to make me say this again. When you got big old corporations such as Disney and I believe Discovery owns DC now, or a portion of it. When you got bigger corporate entities like that, it's weird how marketeers becomes more of an editor than the actual editors to the actual comic books, because we have to make it fit this demographic and tell this type of story. And it gets back to what you were saying about the Wokey comment, which I don't like, but it fits it to the T. It fits this narrow box. It's going to check everything down where we can't get sued. Everybody's going to love it. And some people will, but those who have been here a lot longer are going to kind of be like, what is this crap? This is not a well-told story. This is just something that you just want us to like. I mean, I don't know. I just don't want to go into rant mode here. Yeah, Zaslav, Discovery CEO, is ready to put the shutters down at DC. Yeah, because corporate entities know that comic books are not money makers. If anything, they're proof of concept for something bigger and better outside of that. So if your comic book story cannot cross mediums, you're kind of dead in the water nowadays. Can we just say how fuzzing obnoxious all the Wicked interviews with two witches actress are? Oh my god. You want to know what's obnoxious about all of that here? And I'm going to say this. The actresses' interviews are not a big deal to me. What is a big deal is that after they made mention of that, in the news, it's like, oh yeah, there were fights and stuff that break it out in the movie theaters after people going to watch that movie, where you need to stop singing that song. I came to watch the movie. I didn't want to come along to a sing along. Guess what? Don't go to the movie theater. Wait until it comes out on streaming. Wait till it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray. They're still going to make their money anyway. You don't have to go to AMC. to go see the movie the way that you want to go see it. But no, we got here on the news, oh, fights breaking out, and they're going to have sing-along only sessions for this movie at these movie theaters, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, you know what? If it was like that, just go see the show itself. Go see the live theatrical show. End of story. Let the movie be a movie. If you want the full thing, go see the full thing in a real live action theater. That's just the way that it is. Yeah, but at the same time, shut the fuck up in the theater. Everyone is a child now. Yeah. Yeah, I don't care if Ariana Grande is singing a song popular. I don't care. The song is going to be there. Just like we didn't need to have people go to see The Wiz to have Ease on Down the Road sing by Diana Ross. Heck, my sister still got the old school long playing record. I believe that it was somebody else that did it in Broadway, and that version is on that album. But it's like I said, it's just common sense. Common sense. It's like we don't always go to the theater. Like, for example, perfect example, when Rocky Horror Picture Show first came out, nobody sang along with the songs. And even when they did all these anniversary re-releases to theaters, there was specific ones that said, yes, come, relive, sing along, and this, that, and the other. And then there was others that said, nope, come and watch the movie and enjoy it the way that it was meant to be enjoyed as a theater performance. No singing, no nothing, just come and watch. But no, you got to remind people, it is not your express right to do whatever you want to do in a theater. If you want to have a sing-along, wait until it comes out on streaming, wait till it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD. There's such things as home theater systems for a reason. If you're going to go out to an actual movie theater, be mindful of your neighbors and the other people that are going to see, because a lot of times they're not going to appreciate you singing along and talking in the middle of it and reliving every scene and reciting every line in the actual play that you've seen 15 billion times at a movie. That's not the time and place to be doing that type of stuff. That's just obnoxious. Beanie doesn't yell in the theater. She shuts. Yeah, I was like I wanted to see the movie, but the interviews have been so grated to me that I don't want to even see it anymore. You will see it. Trust me, you will see it. You'll probably do what I'm going to do. Probably wait for streaming or get it on physical media if they do it on physical media. Sal Pyro was one of the first person to yell back at the screen. It is not audience participation. Like Midnight Rocky Horror Picture Shows, they were 100% full audience participation. And like I said, those are specifically done for that. I mean, people came, dressed up, cosplayed, and everything. You'll be surprised at how many Dr. Frankenfooters that showed up for stuff like that. Yep. Yeah, he started the whole audience participation. Stop yelling at the screen. Oh boy, that was hilarious. That was hilarious here. But nevertheless, it's just one of those things dealing with media as a whole here. Is it truly a bad thing, to have a difference of opinion of how something should be told? No, it's not that big of a deal. But those who get paid for it, they get paid, a good chunk of money here. And us as readers, a lot of times we vote with our dollars, meaning that if we don't like something, we don't buy it. And then, maybe later on down the line, you might come back to it after, minds has cleared and everything to that magnitude. I mean, again, I always go back to Grant Morrison and the X-Men run that he did. It wasn't the fact that I didn't like what he was doing. I just knew from reading like his Doom Patrol stuff and a lot of other books that he did, the creative team after that could not keep up what he did. It gonna ruin it. It's like it's just almost like it's about to be another hard reboot coming. And that's the reason why I poo-pooed his work with X-Men for so long. Not that I didn't appreciate it. It was just more along the lines I knew the end was nigh as far as some of the stuff that they were doing. And that's just the harsh reality of it. in the scene, Frank was saying, "It's like I see you shiver with a antis." It's how you say it. One of my favorite lines is at the beginning, Denton, the home of happiness sign behind Janet's pointing to her hat. Yep. And it's like, is then somebody yelling, "Oh my God, the home of happiness is in Janet's hat." Oh boy. If you haven't watched Rocky Horror Picture Show, it's one of those movies that you cannot watch without understanding that it's really not a movie to really follow from beginning to end. It's a mishmash of different broadcasts that could have reached some alien world or something to that magnitude, and this is what you get to see. So a lot of the story doesn't really fit well. So when people are looking at it, they would get things like somebody would yell like, "Oh my God, the whole happiness in Janet's hat." Oh boy. I mean, it's a cult classic film. That I will admit that. Rocky Horror Picture Show is a cult classic film. It's not something that you could just sit down and be like, I understand everything that's going on that first sitting. It's going to take you at least 2 or 3 sittings to understand that it's not supposed to make any sense. None of it is not supposed to make any sense. It's a mishmash of different TV signals that was picked up in space, and this was the end compilation of it. But I at least using that description, I did not give away any spoilers for those young people who haven't seen it. And we're talking about people who are younger than, well, nah, I don't know. Beanie and Lil was still a little bit too young to see something like that. Well, I know Parallax have seen it several times over. But it's something that, like the younger crowd would not understand it. Just like with Song of the South. That's another movie that I wish they would kind of sort of unban just for history's sake. Because again, people need to know that there was a time and place that movies like that did have, if I could say, a place in a time period where it was acceptable. It's shunned upon right now because it didn't paint the people in a proper light today. But in the time frame that it was set in, the time frame that it was made in, it was. And we need to understand history because we're doomed to repeat it. You have not seen Song of the South. Oh wow. Wait a second. Yeah, you are younger than I am. So yeah, you are much younger than I am. So there's a good possibility that you haven't seen Song of the South. Again, as many times as people have seen the song Zippity Doodah, Zippity Doodah comes from Song of the South. People don't realize that. That movie has a greater impact on American culture than what it is. It may be a shameful culture, but it needs to be at least preserved for history standpoint for we don't so we don't repeat it. You know, that's my whole culture here. No, not because Disney won't re-release it. Disney won't re-release it. So if you do find it out there in a while on like VHS, it's going to cost you some money. It's going to cost you a lot of money because that's just something that they just not going to re-release here. Just like how they now put the warning labels on what you call it, Gone with the Wind. That was a time and place where that was standard culture for that time frame. And I you know, with them doing that, I was like, well, what's going to stop you from putting, you know, labels on movies like Glory? Now you're going to put labels on that too. You know, a lot of the stuff dealing with the South during the Civil War. Now you're going to be putting all these labels and everything on it. You're going to be putting labels on the movie like Jubilee. But it is what it is. It is what it is. You know, it's the thing here. It's like, oh, you remember seeing bits and pieces of it. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was from Song of the South. But the thing about Song of the South here is that if I remember it correctly, it was these two kids from the South ended up talking to this one character called Uncle Remus. And Uncle Remus was up here, you know, giving them a quote unquote cultural lesson about the Deep South. And that everything was, you know, Disney, you know, try to keep things positive. But the way that it was presented had that overtone of the old school slave mentality, and the stories that was being told were nice and innocent enough because they was told as in fables, but it preserved the overall culture of slavery and what it was during that time. The problem here is that those overtones pissed a lot of people off. And instead of just saying it was what it was, Disney decided in their infinite wisdom just to keep it in the vaults, never for it to ever return again. So those who were able to get a copy of Song of the South back in like the early 80s, you're sitting on a gold mine if you ever decide to sell it and you have it in good condition. Heck, you might even be tempted to, since nowadays it's easier to transfer things over to some type of digital media, to put it on like a DVD and be like, here, you know, watch this. I mean, it's just kind of like it is what it is. I mean, we don't have that same, if I could say the same distaste for other movies like Coonskin. There's not, you know, a distaste for that where it's like, oh, this movie cannot ever see, you know, this Ralph Bakshi movie cannot ever see the light of day ever again. People got it out there on YouTube. and you can watch it on YouTube. But for some reason, Song of the South is just like, no, Disney don't want any part of Song of the South being out there in any form in any fashion. But that to me is like, that goes into that whole mode of censorship that I just don't like. Not for the standpoint of I know what I want to watch. It's more along the lines of anything that was done dealing with a period of history needs to be preserved. It doesn't necessarily mean that we as a people now feel the exact same way. We should know better. But at the same time, we shouldn't be denying that that type of stuff was quote unquote culturally acceptable back then. But who am I to say anything? As Parallax would say, I'm not a wokey like people are today. But I think I'm tolerant of certain things, but not ill tolerant to a lot of other stuff. I mean, Song of the South is like, yeah, some of the imagery and everything was not the best, and some of the tales and animation and the stories that was being told was not something that a lot of kids nowadays would understand, because again, they did not grow up in a era where that stuff was happening, especially if you did not grow up in the era of if you did not grow up in an era where prejudice was rampant. And there's still prejudice now, but it's not as overtly shown like it was back then. Back then, even when I was growing up, that it was still was a lot being overtly shown and overtly exhibited by people. Nowadays, not so much. But you never know. You're going to have people that will get together and do those types of things here. It's like one of those things that you begin to see more and more now. It's like the so-called marches of neo-Nazis, and excuse me for using that word, marching down different streets and everything. Again, First Amendment freedom of assembly, they have that right. But also at the same time, people don't know how to deal with it either. And this is the weirdest thing about the First Amendment. Just like it's their right to be able to march down the street and everything and show their support for a movement, you have the same right to not hear it. Now, the question is, does those two things always intersect? Usually not, because nobody is making you pay attention to it. Nobody is forcing you to watch it. If it happens, it happens. Nobody is making you an active participant in that assembly. But at the same time, they do have a right to get together and vocalize their so-called point. But that's the understanding of knowing what the First Amendment really is. Oh, you found it. Oh, you found the full movie? Cool. So hopefully it's on a streaming site where you don't have to pay to watch it. And 9 times out of 10, I have a sneaky suspicion that they probably edit some stuff out of it. And trust me, it's not a bad movie. It's just a cultural time frame that most people want to forget. People feel that Uncle Remus is a caricature, that it was offensive to blacks of the time, and all this other stuff here. Yeah, they got it archived. I know they got it archived, but you won't be able to buy it anymore. They won't sell it to you. They won't sell you a copy of it. They won't even remaster it to sell to people. Just like right now, I'm still trying to get a first print copy of Mouse. You know, that was one of those stories that I always wanted to bring myself to read, but never had a chance to read because I never owned a copy of it. I heard good things about it, and it brought out a lot of good ideas as far as why certain things are bad and why certain things are good. But, you know, with that being on the not to read list, it's going to be harder and harder to come by. Not every place would have a copy of it, and it's kind of sad. You know, in the bigger scheme of things, it really is, because, like I said, there's certain things that need to be preserved, and there's certain things that I get. You know, we just don't really need it. You know, being really circulated in that big a fashion. But you know, it is what it is here. I guess I'm kind of boring you guys because we took a left turn at Albuquerque because we went from talking about comic books that we don't like to now these heavier topics about censorship and offensiveness in media. It's just weird. Left turn. So, you know, it was kind of weird that we went down that whole thing. I guess because of the whole thing about Wicked, you know, Wicked coming to movie theaters, and everybody's talking about how the two actresses, you know, is really doing a lot more to really bring out the story up that was done on Broadway. The fact that people are doing sing-alongs when there's not real sing-alongs happening in movie theaters and everything, and people being selfish. It is what it is. Now you're beginning to understand about the period piece. Because, like I said, back then that was acceptable. It's not something that kids and people today would tolerate. But you know, me being born in the 1970s and growing up in the 80s, we got to see a lot of that type of stuff, and we didn't have too much of a qualm about it. But I could see kids and people who were born after 2010 be like, what is this nonsense? That stuff is straight up racist. It's like, you don't know what racist truly is, my brother. You don't know what that really is, because the context that you put it in is something that you haven't lived through. There are certain things that I have lived through that I could say that is racist, that you would not understand why it would be considered racist. But I know, I know with that movie, it's like, it's blatant. It's very blatant that it was the time frame that they set it in, that it was like, yeah, the modern day audience would be so offended by it that it would be beyond ridiculous. But yet you got movies like Coonskin, about the whole thing about Brer Rabbit. People don't have a major deal about that, but not a lot of people have watched that movie either. Or the scene about, the one dude falling in love with Miss America, and then after it was all said and done, he ended up having to clap. That's a scene that you have to watch to get its full context of why it would be offensive to some. But yeah, that one was like, if you have a problem with Song of the South, then you would probably have a problem with Coonskin. And you probably have a bigger problem with Coonskin than Song of the South. Because there were so many different scenes up in there that talked about culture in such a light that, you know, it puts it in your face. It really puts it in the face. And in today's society, it would be very offensive to a lot. So if you're not thick-skinned, it's not a movie that I would say you could watch. Okay, but I don't know why. It's like I don't know why we're on this topic about movies and all this other stuff. But then again, Parallax is now officially a movie file. She has skipped that fine line from just being a movie watcher to a movie file, buying up every last physical media movie that she wants to watch. I myself is not that way. I always been a movie file. Shoot, not as much as I have as of late. It's like every time it's like, hey, come over here and watch this. It's like, okay, what cell show we're going to watch now? And it's always DVDs and Blu-rays now. It used to be comics because it's like, we will get there and it's like, we'll talk prices and stuff like that, and about how some people are price gouging and other people are doing good deals. And now all of a sudden it's just like every now it's like movies. So I'm like, I'm not in the market for movies at this point. Yes, that was that could, the if I could say vernacular of the characters was one of the other reasons why. But then again, if you're going to talk about Song of the South in that same aspect, some people could talk about other Disney movies in that same aspect. The first one that comes to my mind is The Princess and the Frog, and dealing with Princess Tiana. That one was kind of borderline offensive to culture as well. I'm not going on to no rambling tangent. I know when to shut up. I've been trying to move the conversation to something different, but y'all keep bringing up movies, and especially things that would be considered offensive today, such as the movies that we talked about. But I'm up here like, we're supposed to be talking about comics, and I originally started off talking about, the new video game that I've been playing that it's just broken. But nah, y'all want to talk about like things that get people upset. And watch, I bet you, I triple dog dare her to not get Wicked the movie when it comes out to Blu-ray or DVD. She wants to watch it. Trust me, she wants to watch it. But if it was me, I will wait until it comes out on Blu-ray or DVD or streaming if I really wanted to see it. That's the whole thing. That's the whole fact of the matter. It's just that there's people younger than you that will see it that way, and they don't understand. They think they know everything, but they don't understand the context of how it's being told and the time frame it was being told in. It's a different type of climate back in when was that? I want to say that was early 70s, like somewhere between 68 and 71 when that movie came out. Somewhere between 1968 and 1971. Actually, since Tori is watching it, she probably has like the copyright information in front of her. She could give me that time frame. But you have to think about that when it came out in that time frame and the type of people that were living during that time. People weren't not that that offended by stuff like that. No, it's nothing to be sorry about. Yeah, but again, also time frame, and the audience that movie had to appeal to. Again, 1946. That's Gone with the Wind. That's not Song of the South. That's Song of the South was not 46. I could have sworn that was Gone with the Wind was 46. Song of the South was later. Wow. That's a lot older than what I thought. I thought it was after 1950. It was like the 60s or something. So you have to think 1946, United States in 1946. That would not have been offensive at all. Heck, it was before the 1950s. The country was still relatively segregated at that point. So how would it be culturally racist at that point when the society as a whole was in that separated standpoint? Just saying. Just saying. Oh, Gone with the Wind was 39. That makes a lot more sense. I know, like Gone with the Wind had to be earlier. If Gone with the Wind is 1939, then yeah, Song of the South had to be in 46. So, that's one of those things that you have to think about. 1936, that wouldn't have been as racist at all. It would be, a movie in 1936 that was talking about a time frame before, just like in 1946, talking about a time frame before. In 1946, that wouldn't have been considered insensitive. In today's generation, within from like 2010s on, oh yeah, they wouldn't have no understanding of it, zero understanding of it, other than the fact that it hits these check boxes, therefore it's not good. Now a part of me want to go on a different rant about, what the problem is. We got this website called Rotten Tomatoes where everybody else says something else is trash, and everybody else going to think it's trash. It's like we don't think for ourselves anymore. Well, technically we don't. At least the mass media is trying to paint a picture where, yeah, we think individually when we really don't. But that's a whole different thing. And I'm stopping there because I know Parallax be like, there he goes, he's about to do that tangent thing. It's like, nope, I catch myself before I go tangent. But it is what it is. But Tori, it's going to be a good watch. It's a good watch here. Watch it with a grain of salt, understanding that it was 1946 for our audience in 1946. And an audience of 1946, it wouldn't have been offensive. And a lot of the things that they did in that was during the time frame of the Deep South during slavery and everything, and some of the stories and tales that would have came out at that time frame. You could find offense to it if you really tried to, but if you take it with a grain of salt and see it for what it is, it's not a bad movie, not at all. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And today's generation would be like their great great grandparents. I think it's like 2 or 3 generations out could have been slaves. But or it's like either be slaves or slave owners 2 or 3 generations out. But it was a time in this country that was common fare, and you cannot just take my box of of magic erasers in the bathroom. About to just like reach over. It's like you can't take a magic eraser. About to grab the box and do a plug for Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. You just can't take a magic eraser to history and act like something never happened. It did. And that's what I feel some of the banning that's been happening as of late with some movies, like with Gone with the Wind and Song of the South is really doing. It's taking that magic eraser and saying, hey, we did this movie, but it doesn't exist. What shouldn't have exist is movies like Dragon Ball Revolution. That you need to take a magic eraser to and, 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 and block out of history. I kid. I joke around and I kid, but nevertheless, there's just certain things that just need to be preserved for the simple fact that it does. I mean, if you're doing Gone with the Wind now, you're doing Song of the South was stopping you for doing Glory or Jubilee or anything dealing with the Deep South or Civil War. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, what more can I say? Uh, I'm not going to go into tangent, but all of a sudden, this one joke came to my mind here, dealing with since we were talking about that time frame. A joke came to my mind that a friend of mine told me several years back. So I won't tell it. I won't tell it because it's not it's a decent joke. It's something that I could say to the younger crowd, but it goes back to that, like I said, understanding that time frame of where it was set in. So it is what it is. Oh yeah, I did okay. I was like, people think that I don't try to sell, but I do. I do my best to try to sell. I don't oversell people. I don't oversell. I don't pressure people. And that's one of the reasons why I think I'm not a good fit for Whatnot, because to me, Whatnot is more of a pressure sell. It's like if I don't have the book that you want, I'd be like, oh well, somebody else would get it a little bit later. I just have to find where the people are at. Just like with all the Wonder Woman books that I was showing, it's like, you know what? I know people was looking for these books. I have them. I just haven't found, my audience. The audience that are looking for them. But out of the stuff that went, and this might shock Parallax a little bit. I sold a complete set of Volume 1 of Amazon Attacks today, but I was selling sets, and that's the key thing. My whole thing is completing people's runs. It's not a good thing just to sell 1 or 2 issues here and there. It's, to me, sell them the complete story. If you could sell them the complete story, you did your job. Like I said, I'm surprised that Hulk Volume 3 didn't go the way that it did. I mean, a full run of that, would easily cost you somewhere about $40 to $50, and I was doing $25 for all 11 issues. And then, adding the Jennifer Walters Must Die, the full run of that for like, 25, or if you get both of them, would have been like $35 for the whole complete run from Hulk Volume 3, Issue 1 to the very end, where they changed the title to She-Hulk to Legacy number 162 or something like that. That would have been, a great pickup, but you know, people have their taste here. I'm surprised that a lot of the Batman stuff that I got, because I don't really like Batman, and I was gifted a lot of Batman recently, and I've been selling them. I've been selling them off as like, I'm not a big Batman fan. If it's not Flashpoint Batman, I don't have no use for it. And then I have still like a lot of number one issues, like the Jessica Jones one, or the I have a New Mutants number one. I have all these different number one, Extraordinary X-Men number one, Sins of Sinister number one, all these different number ones. And I still got more stuff in storage that I could pull out and actually sell. But am I going to do claim sales? No. And the only reason I'm not doing claim sales, because the one thing that makes me kind of apprehensive about it here is that, because I have to rely on people to get me information right away, because I'm one of those type of people. It's like, you buy something from me, I can go ahead, pack it up and everything, and have it ready until your payment hits. And once your payment hits, I'm putting it in the mail. I don't hold on to your stuff. I ship it really quick, fast, and in a hurry. And that's one of the reasons why I actually like Whatnot for that aspect here, because it forces people to ship within the first 3 days of your sale. So if you have like one of the good things of selling on a Saturday is that you actually have 3 days, 3 business days to send off that package, to send off what the person ships up. Because you doing it on a Saturday, especially the way that I do it, is Saturday at 5. Post office are normally closed, so that means I have that Monday, Tuesday, and now I get that Wednesday to make certain that I get to send that stuff off within their time frame. Are they really a hard stickler on it? No, not really, but they have their means and methods and their metrics on that, and so far I have hit those metrics very well. Yep. Amazon Attacks is like 15 years ago, and should have a run in the books, not have a issues 1 through 6, because 1 through 6 contains a storyline, the trade paperback connecting to the pages that doesn't make any sense. Yep. And I showed the issues in the Wonder Woman Volume 3 during the Terry Dodson run that corresponds to Amazon's attack. Yeah, they should have did it in Volume 3. They should have left everything in Volume 3. But no, they moved everything over to a actual short series. Being greedy, I agree. They were being greedy, and they moved everything over the way that they did. By the way, I have singles She-Hulk's 1. It's like 6 or 7, but my collection of signed She-Hulk is closer to 1. Let's see. Yeah, Amazon Attacks trade paperback should have the pages from the tie-in spliced in for the full. Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to understand the 6 or 7 that makes my collection. Okay, so you got I can show you guys this then. I'm assuming that you're talking about this. That's the set that I sold here. Now I can make another set of this if I need to, and sell if I really had to. But this was one of the sets that I sold here. I'm assuming that you said that you had one of these and you got them signed. You got them all signed and whatnot. And that's cool. That's very cool. Yeah, from Wonder Woman books and the Supergirl book. I forgot about the one Supergirl tie-in. That was the one. That's the one that I always keep forgetting about. Because yeah, she was involved in that series here. She has a signed She-Hulk 1, like a 6th or 7th grade, but I think no. Well, in the show, I showed that series, that full set, but we're not going to go there with She-Hulk #1 because I have to hold my head down in shame. Yeah, the set is not in a great condition, but my #1 is signed. Yeah, that's what I thought you said. The #1 was signed here. But yeah, I could make another setup. They could make another set of that, and I could pretty much guarantee that the next set that I make is somewhere between, mid 9s to like 8.5 copies. You know why I would hold my head down in shame if we're talking about She-Hulk #1s, especially Savage She-Hulk #1s, because it's sad. It's sad because I have too many. I have too many that's graded, and I almost had an opportunity to finally have a 9.8 of that book, but I blew it. I blew it. But I'm not a 9.8 chaser like that. I'm happy with the 5 that I got, of which the 5 that I do have, I could send one of them back to get my gold label because of David Anthony Kraft's signature. But it is what it is. He's like, you could give me one. I'll help you not shade. Why did I just picture Beanie and Lil being like Muffin? It's mine. It's all mine. I just had that picture of her saying that like Muffin. Yeah, my one She-Hulk #1 is a 9.4, but it is signed by Stan. See, I'm not lucky. I don't have anything signed by Stan. Give it to me. This is my karma, man. Uh, oh boy. For people who don't know who Muffin is, we're talking about Bluey. And to be quite honest, I outside of that one episode that I was shown that had to give it to me, I have not watched Bluey in that aspect here. But at least I have. Well, actually, I take that back. I've seen 2 episodes of Bluey. 2. One that talked about Bluey's development to how Bluey is from where the mom was up here talking about, teaching Bluey how to walk and everything to that magnitude. I've watched that episode, and then the camping one, like it's like that's my fry pan, give it to me. That's my cup too, give it to me. This is mine. This is all mine. Oh man, you need to see Granny Muffin. Oh no, no. Yeah, I met Stan. I hugged him. I hugged him. Top 10 of my days. Wow. Yeah, Baby Race. That was the one that I watched. I saw Baby Race. That was the name of that episode. See, y'all got to see him in person and actually got to shake his hand and talk to him and hug him. The best I ever got with Stan, he walked right in front of our booth going into the Marvel booth. And I saw all the guards and everything that they had to protect him for he could do his grand entrance for them for at the Marvel booth. I saw it right. It's like how I'm sitting right here across the aisle was Marvel, and the block that Marvel had there was their main office where all the staff and stuff were. So we get to see staff go in and out of the Marvel booth. A lot of the senior staff, like senior vice presidents and stuff, all day, and Stan walked in. It's like I hugged him. It's like I hugged him too. I was like, I left a lipstick imprint on his face and told him, it's like, don't let Joe see that or you will be in the doghouse. And he laughed. Okay, Tori, have a good night here. I'll talk to you later. Wow. See, now you make me think about the thing that, the one of his so-called quotes here about having comic books in print. Yeah, my sister was his lawyer's assistant, so I got a private meeting. Cool. See, I would have never known that. I would have never known that. So that is a blessing. That is a blessing here. At New York Comic Con, he had 3 uniform NYPD officers and 3 regularly dressed detectives along with him with his security. Yeah. Chicago Police Department did not walk him in, but people were moved. And when I say people were moved, I mean there was like an entourage that walked on one side of him to keep people from seeing who it was. And then you had people behind him to keep people back away from him. And then the people that were in the Marvel booth itself opened up the door, came out to kind of shield him. So the only people that actually got to see that it was Stan was other exhibitors. Because they had it partitioned in such a way that if you were not paying attention, it would just be like, okay, somebody walked into the Marvel booth. But yeah, they made certain that he was taken care of here. And they surrounded him because people would run the old man over to say, yep. Yes. Yeah. Because those who did get to see him was doing double takes quickly when he walked in. They were doing real big double takes, and it didn't dawn on them who they saw. That makes me kind of the one cool thing that my fiance remembers from C2E2 more so than anything else was the fact that she met Das Punk at C2E2. And the messed up thing about it was everybody thought it was people cosplaying as Das Punk. And because they had the security for them were dressed down so much that they came off as just regular people, attending the con, and they were like, that's like, oh, you want to take pictures? Like, here, we'll help you. Let me help you take your picture and this, that, and the other. And the security was so cool like that it was almost like, oh yeah, they're not the real ones. And they're like, no, they really are. They really are. That's how tight the security was and how they played it off. They wasn't like, oh, move back, you got to get out the way for this famous person. Like Candyman, Tony Todd walked up to the booth, no security whatsoever. Hey, I wanted to meet you guys, this, that, and the other. It's like, I happened to bump into a couple of your people over here and they told me to come by. I was like, wow. That's just the way that it was. Yeah. You'd be surprised of how many top name celebrities will walk the convention floor at these major conventions, and because they don't have all the so-called security guards that have to like move people out the way and elbow people out the way and stuff, that it's just surprising. They would just come up and walk to you. It's like, hey, how you doing? This, that, and the other. It's like you're such and such. Yeah, yes, I have heard that before. It's like, can I get your pictures? Sure. It just be like that. It's like when Daniel Radcliffe went to London Comic Con dressed as Spider-Man, and no one, yeah, people. San Diego was the first time that I have seen that happen so often. All these big name actresses was cosplaying all these different characters, and I didn't recognize them because they were in costume. And what is weird is that you would be sitting next to him in one of these actual I can't even think about panels, in one of these panels, and you will never know that you're talking to somebody that's famous. You will never know unless they reveal themselves. The old adage, the best way to hide is in plain sight. Yeah. I saw that Wendy Williams was cosplaying Wonder Woman. That would have been pretty nice to see how she pulled it off. Only a handful of people realized who it was. Yeah. It's not something that, when a celebrity cosplay, it's just like you just think that's a regular everyday old person. You're not thinking that that's somebody famous. And it's just weird. It's just weird in that aspect here. But surprisingly enough, there's a lot of musicians and stuff that comes to like C2E2, and it's like Daft Punk showed up that one year. And my fiance was kept talking. It's like, come here. It's like, what? That can't be the real ones. It's like, yeah, I kept looking. It's like I kept looking, and then I noticed how the people around them was always following them around. It's like, no, that's security, and the security was, dressed up in plain sight, and they wasn't like harassing them. They wasn't harassing them. They was like going from area to area with them. So, me having my cell phone and her having her cell phone, it's like she forced me over there. We asked if we could take their pictures and whatnot. They were cool about it. They saw my activity fast. They were cool about it. And people just thought they was cosplaying Daft Punk. People literally thought they was playing, because again, they never go out in public without their helmets. And it wasn't like makeshift helmets. They were the actual ones that they would use in shows. And that was the weirdest moment ever. But I have met a lot of celebrities, doing comic book conventions. The coolest one that I still hold as part of my top 10 was Pam Grier. I met Pam Grier at Wizard World without having to buy a signing ticket or anything to that matter. I actually was able to give her a couple of copies of our comic books, and thanked her for all the movies that she did. Her handle allowed me to do that. Yeah, the Pam Grier, aka I forgot what she had doctorates in. She has a couple of doctorates. Most people don't know that she's actually a PhD. Yes, that's that same Pam Grier, aka Coffee Pam Grier, aka Jackie Brown Pam Grier. I met her at Wizard World. Yes, that one. The same Pam Grier that to me would have been the best model that actually played the role of then why do I always blank at the proper time, at always the proper time here, Amanda Waller. She was Smallville's Amanda Waller. She played that role very well. Now, would she be the prototypical Amanda Waller for what they did in the Suicide Squad movies? No. But for what they did in Smallville, oh yes, that was a awesome pick for her to be Amanda Waller. She played the heck out of that role. Yes, Jackie Brown is a super underrated Quentin Tarantino movie. Very underrated. But it wasn't quirky enough like Pulp Fiction to get critic acclaim for some reason. She could have, but even with that being said, Grace Jones played a decent Mayday. Don't get me wrong, Grace Jones did play a decent Mayday. She wasn't, she probably wouldn't have been most people's first choice, but she did great playing Mayday. I mean, that's just the way that it is. But for those who remember Smallville, go back and rewatch it. She played Amanda Waller when they finally did Suicide Squad on Smallville. I remember that very well. But yes, she is a nice lady to meet in person. I have met Ernest Thomas, aka Roger Thomas from What's Happening. Actually had him to come by our booth at one Wizard World, and we had like a 15-minute conversation. I got movies today from Amazon. Oh, okay. See, the way that I am with comic books is probably going to be the way Parallax going to be with movies. You're going to have all these umpteen boxes of nothing but movies. The Rog laughs. Both Spider-Man animated movies. Spider-Man animated movies. Oh, you're talking about the Miles Morales movies. It's like the first one I was thinking about. It's like, I don't remember Peter Parker having an animated Spider-Man movie. It's like, must be Miles Morales. I already have umpteen boxes of movies. Yeah, into this, into the Spider-Verse. I don't have those on physical media as of yet. Heck, I still need to get I need to get the third Spider-Man movie. Not Homecoming, not Far From Home, the third movie, which I always I can't remember if it was No Way Home or something like that. Because like we had Homecoming, Far From Home, and I think it was like No Way Home or no way something. It's the third one that I have to get on Blu-ray or DVD. Yeah, No Way Home. I still have to see the scene because I don't know what it is about the Mary Jane that they have playing here, but still, having her to throw the biscuit at Andrew Garfield, talking about do the thing, do the thing, the thing. It's like, you ain't him, then do the thing. What do you mean? Do the thing. That's like I need that too. Yep. Because she says it with such a straight face. Like, it's like you could tell in her face. If she's suspicious of you, she's suspicious of you. It's like, oh, really? To do the thing. What do you mean? You know, the thing. What thing? The thing. Stop. It's like, stop doing that. It doesn't work like that. Oh, really? It's like, you did do it. And then he was like, okay, fine. So he jumps up and holds it. He's attached to the ceiling by one hand. Now, it's like, is that enough? Now move around. Move around. It's like, that's not enough. Move around. Really? That's not enough. It's a biscuit. But she understands. But she understands. She understands their version of Peter a lot better. She understands what Peter can do a lot better. But it's just so hilarious that Andrew Garfield, like, they're like, what is wrong with you? You have to look at what is wrong with you. Do the thing. Yeah, I love how Toby is like, sorry, I just came through this. Oh, it's gone. The one thing that I kind of wish that this version of Spider-Man movies would have done is that they would have moved Ned, pushed Ned more towards being Hobgoblin. That was the only thing that I didn't like about this trilogy of Spider-Man movies. Ned still was kind of the best friend that Peter could ever have. And I'm glad that they did get away from Osborn in this set of movies because I got tired of the whole Osborn thing. I'm glad that Homecoming was Vulture. I'm glad that No Way Far From Home was Mysterio. And No Way Home was their version of One More Day. But I know Paralyzed is probably cringing. It's like, it's not One More Day. But yeah, it was the movie version of One More Day, just told in a very weird way. But yes, I really want to see. I want to see No Way Home again. I really do. That was hilarious. And I even have more respect for Doc Ock. It's omitted. Not it's omitted. It's not One More Day. One moment in time. Yeah. Get it right. One moment in time. Yeah. I will grant you that. It is one moment in time. It's the cinematic version of one moment in time. We're not going to have that conversation again. So at this point, I can see the fact that we're not going to agree with that as a whole here. I agree that Superman Returns fits in between 2 and 3, but I can't see Superman Returns replacing 2, because technically the way that it is written script wise, you are absolutely right. It comes right after 1, but it deals with a lot of stuff that happened in 2 that really wasn't changed. I still don't like the fact that, there was, the whole Zod thing was just an afterthought writing. But I like the fact that there was a second nuke, that Luthor had a second nuke that he had to deal with. That's the reason why I say I can see, because if you die on that hill, there would be no one left for Beanie. I mean, granted, Fran would be there, but Beanie needs you. Fighting in real life. I agree. It does. It will be Superman 3. I will agree that it makes more sense for it to be Superman 3, but it covered too much of what happened in 2 for it to not really be a true third Superman movie. Because a lot of stuff that happened in 2 would have happened, the whole thing with Zod and stuff would have happened. The whole thing with Zod would happen after that second nuke. So it was just kind of like that weird timing that they were playing with in Superman Returns that caused our argument. Because we agreed that, yeah, it does replace 3. It does replace 3, but does it replace 2 is the argument. Would it be Superman 2 instead? You say it's Superman 3, and I was like, yeah, I could see that. But there's too much stuff that they covered within, in that movie about 2 that makes me wonder that did they change the events of 2 to kind of match up with this movie? And if that's the case, then technically it would be Superman 2. I always said it's Superman 3. Yeah, but you know what we talked about. We covered the whole Zod stuff that was in Return. Yeah, they retreaded some of 1 and they retreaded some of 2. You know what? I'm not going to argue that. You're right. It had the same ending as A New Hope. The only difference was I forgot where the ending of New Hope was, but at least Return of the Jedi, it was on Endor with the Ewoks, and they pretty much had the same metal type thing that was going on with all the Ewoks there and all the important people that were supposed to be there. Air on Endor to add some more flair to it, to say it's different, but no, it's the same. Just a different place, but it's the same. Yep. Yeah. That ending, the Yavin 4 medal ceremony and the ceremony on Endor, the same ending. Except this time, now we see both. We see Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda at the very end of this one. Moulin Rouge. Moulin Rouge and Phantom Menace. You be finding these things. You be finding them. You be finding them so well. I'm like, I can't argue that one. That one I can't argue. You are correct on that one. Ewan McGregor hosts some of the loves that as they die, he gets upset and cries and makes a promise. Train the boy and tell our story. Like I said, I can't argue that. I can't argue that. When you said those two, I was like, yep, they're essentially the same. They're essentially the same. They did exactly the same thing. Uh, you know, you remember Bullet from Whatnot. We had a discussion not too long ago, and we came to the conclusion that two other movies had the exact same plot point, except one dealt with family and the other one dealt with government in the same aspect, and that was Point Break, and the first Fast and Furious. Because we were talking about the diner scene. The diner scene was exactly the same, except for Ben Diesel was talking about family, and Keanu Reeves was talking about the government. Boule. I call him Boule. I hate Fast and the Furious. Hey, how many movies that they made? And they got one thing right. They made Little Bow Wow Twinkie. Little Bow Wow was Twinkie in Tokyo Drift. Fast and Furious 13, Dom versus the Enterprise. Dom versus the Enterprise and Dr. 82 Dodge Charger. I'm sorry, Captain. The dilithium crystal cannot take the strain. It seems like the exhaust that's coming from that 82 Charger is just causing such a rift that our ship can't move any faster. Oh boy, that's just so wrong in so many different ways. So here, Tom is face. We do this for family and family analysis. It was like, and now we are going to go to Mars to colonize the family. The Enterprise doesn't have what they family. Dom's going to look at warp drive technology. It'd be like, you know what this thing is missing? Go old fashioned American muscle. this warp drive engine is shit compared to a V8 5-liter. I should be laughing because you never know. They might be listening in on us. I was like, yeah, we about to do this Fast and Furious movie. Enterprise needs a Hemi. It's like, screw this warp drive, put in a Hemi engine. You'll be all right. Oh. Oh my goodness. It's like, but Dom, what are we going to do with this Klingon with this Klingon bird of prey? We're just going to ram it. What? It's like, what do you mean we're going to ram it? Nothing beats our Dodge Charger. We'll be all right. We'll beat those Klingons, their captain. And I have to Toretto at his finest. Well, I hope we don't have to come to that. Kirk and what makes it so bad is that the Klingon would like Toretto because, again, he's a warrior about tradition because he believes in family. I should not be cracking up like this, but that is funny. That is funny to think about. All the stuff that we could Dom Toretto in space. Oh my goodness. Fast and Furious 14. Dom finally takes on the board. What? You're trying to assimilate everything that we know? Hell no. You're not family. I don't trust you. Resistance is futile. Oh, yeah? You're not family. And since you're not family, you must die. And the Next Generation crew is like, how is he doing all of this? He doesn't even have warp drive technology. Number one, what is this thing called American Muscle? No, I can't be assimilated because of the family and low and the only person that Dom would be cool with in Next Generation is Data, because Data would be so curious about his aspect of family that he would figure out a way to become like family for Dom. It's like Dom would feel sympathy for him for after he told him about how he lost Trisha Yar. No, he wouldn't, because the Riker maneuver won't work on Dom. That would be messed up. They assimilate Dom, and then all of a sudden, all the Borg cubes now become like 82 Dodge Chargers with warp drive. and they pull out in a group like, for family. and the continuum will come out of nowhere and look at all the stuff that's happening and be like, what in the world has interrupted the natural time span of human beings? Sir, it's Dom Toretto. Oh, we've been trying to knock on his door for a moment. He's supposed to be one of us. Oh well. Because and then we get to Fast and Furious 15. Now we're going to deal with species 9827, the only species that the Borg have ever ran from. Now, since Dom has been assimilated, now you got all of these Dodge Chargers going after them. It's like, we don't run from our Why? Because we're family. See, this is why you don't put thoughts like that in Trekky's head, because we will figure out a way to make it work. Q is like, this is all wrong, but I'll allow it. No, Q would be like, this is all wrong. I will only allow it because I can't stop it. I can't stop it. It's not because it's not because he allows it because it's permissive will. He allows it because he can't stop it. The continuum cannot stop it from happening. It's too far gone. But Q, what can we do? What can we do to prevent further damage here? Nothing. It's like, what do you mean nothing? Well, the only thing that you could do is find some type of way to get a signal out to the Delta Quadrant to tell J-Ray that you guys need the temporal quantum torpedoes that they developed there. And hopefully you stand a chance against Dom Torello. But it's not guaranteed that it will work. It's like Q will pull like a Galactus on Dom Torello. Even the continuum has enough power to stop them. The biggest mistake that the Borg would ever do, the day that they assimilate Dom Toretto. It's like Q would come on the scene. It's like, wait a second, that can't be the Borg. That looks like a 20th century human car. That's not a cube. What in the world is going on here? I'm just still thinking about how the Borg would be going around in space in all of these souped up Dodge Chargers with hydraulics. The Dodge Charger would be bumping up and down in the middle of space. You up here trying to figure out how is it doing this when there's no ground. Dom Toretto. Dom Toretto messing up everything. The only way to stop this is to get a teenage Kirk to race Dom and beat. No, it wouldn't be a teenage Kirk. It would be you have to get a teenage Picard, or Picard before he became captain, when he was when he was a part of special forces. Picard was a crazy mofo in the books. In the Star Trek books, if you read the novel, he was a crazy mofo. A young Picard would beat Dom in a street race in order to get all the timeline shenanigans to go back. It's like 26. And they're up there trying to figure out how would this combustion engine design beat our warp drive engines? Okay. Wait, let me calm myself. Let me calm myself down here. Oh my goodness. But sir, it doesn't explain why the warship is bouncing like that in the middle of space. Look at it, Captain. The back of it is right up, then it falls down. Then the front of it is right up, and it falls down. What type of sign is this? What type of sign is this, Captain? I have no idea. This is something that is so tribalistic that is before my day. Oh. Starfleet Picard was just before he got, yeah, just before he got stabbed. Yes, that Picard would be a good challenge for Dom Toretto because he was just that crazy. Yeah, in the Star Trek 4 uniform. Yep, that one. Riker, wait, how the hell did the combustion engine get out of the unknown, unknown commander. Suggestions. Oh my goodness, that is so true. They would all get in that one conference room and try to figure this thing out, and it's like we don't have no answers for this. How is it getting oxygen? No, sir. No, a known commander. and then you miss one, and then you miss the one thing. You would have Worf saying, "Why don't we just blast them out of the sky and be over with it?" We can't do that, Worf, because it might start another war. And fucking barrage and float out torpedoes. Exactly. That would have been Worf's reaction. That would have been Worf's reaction here. Oh my goodness. You know, that was one of the one things that I do missed out of Next Generation is Tasha Yars, because Tasha was the original security officer. Her response to this would have been more unique, because her response is like, well, why don't we try to negotiate with them and send a Trojan horse over there, some type of Trojan horse, and blow it up from the inside. That would have been Tasha's answer to that. But like, let's try a sneak attack. Troy was like, Troy, it's like we need to figure out what is their motivation. And then that's when Data says, like, but we do know what their motivation is. It seems like all their communication is for family. Family. For family. Oh man. Know what it is. It's for family. Well, people, we're over the 2 hour mark. We're about 2 hours and 15 minutes in, so we're going to call this a night here. we did all lost our mind. Yep. And the bad thing about it is we covered the original series, we covered Next Generation, we covered Voyager. The only one that we never covered was Deep Space Nine, because out of all of them, Benjamin Sisko would figure out the way to finally beat Toretto. He would be the one that eventually beat Toretto at his own game of family. F Warp 11. It's like Warp 11. It's like, how are they? It's like Next Generation. It's like, how are they even beating Warp 11? It's like it's a gas combustion engine. Don finds Jackie Robinson Paul. No, I have a better picture of Jackie Robinson's ball now. This is how Q gets involved here. It's like Q eventually is like, yeah, if they doing a lot of stuff for family. It's like, why don't you just give them something that they want for they can leave you alone for now? What would that be? Let me go over there and find out. So he goes over there, he messing around, he gets caught up with the newfound Dom Borg. And up there, it's like, we need something that is unique, that is unheard of in this time, in this day and age. It's like, oh, what is that? A autograph signed Jackie Robinson 1955 ball. It must be authentic. It cannot be a replica. It must be original. And that's the whole thing. The Picard's crew would have to do Q's bidding in order to manifest that ball. Would push them in double jeopardy now. Since Q tried to do him a favor, and then he found out that the favor was going to be like, oh, I can manifest this ball and be done with it, but I'm going to have my fun with this crew. And he makes them go through all these hoops and loops and jumps before he manifested Jackie Robinson ball. And then Riker's reaction, all of this is for a Jackie Robinson baseball. Oh my goodness, that would just be so messed up. But Dom would not be ready for Benjamin Sisko. He would not. He'd be like, the Dom Borg would go to Deep Space Nine, and it's like Benjamin Sisko is like, look, I have been through many of wars and rumors of wars and everything to that magnitude. You want to tell me about family? Let me tell you about family. About keeping things together despite who your family is. And they really go at it. They really go at it, and Benjamin Sisko eventually wins. And then all the other captains would be like, "How did you beat him?" Let's just say I had the bigger family. he brought Dom back to his right mind, and the Borg rejects him. Just how Kirk sells the glasses in Trek 4. Sells the glasses in Trek 4, which puts them on the course for them on his birth as a gift to their birthday. Yeah, exactly. Star Trek 4 to me would always be the mystery one that does not fit in the whole movie universe for the original series. because the whole idea was they went back in time in such a messed up way to actually get humpback whales out of all things. And the thing about it is that they never got the humpback whales, they just got their sounds to appease whatever entity that was about to get ready to destroy their universe. Which again, it really didn't make too much sense, but coming after, the whole search for Spock and the Genesis torpedo and all the stuff that happened afterwards, it was okay for what they was trying to do, especially with the whole Radio Shack thing with the Tandy computer. It's like, okay, computer, the whole, okay, computer, I need this. No, it doesn't work like this. It's a mouse. And Scotty goes, oh, how quaint. He moves the mouse around, clicks on something, and just went to town on that keyboard. It was so messed up. Yeah, it was a good movie for them being people out of their time, people from the future trying to adjust to the past and trying to blend in without being discovered. And the fact that the illegal Romulan cloaking device was working. That was the other thing that went over people's heads with the Star Trek franchise. That was the only Enterprise that could cloak. And somehow it disappeared. They had cloaking technology. To remember, when they landed in 1980s Earth, they cloaked the Enterprise. Yeah, they took George and Gracie back to the So, they did take the wells back. I thought they just I thought they recorded the sounds. Okay, that's right. They did have the Christopher Lloyd ship. Yeah, they did. They did G that ship. They did G his ship. I forgot about that. I forgot that they did G his ship. They did G his ship real quick, fast, in a hurry for 3, and that's how they went back. Well, yeah, they blew up the Enterprise in 2, and they blew it up again in 3. Which to me just didn't make any sense. In 2, it made sense. In Star Trek 2, it made sense. Wrath of Khan, that made sense for them to blow up the Enterprise the way that they did. In 3, when they got the new one, it didn't make any sense to blow that one up. Oh yeah, it was still movable. But like I said, they made that calculated risk versus con to be like, okay, fine, we'll be stranded down here and we'll give you the Enterprise, knowing good and well it was heavily damaged, and they could kill 2 birds in 1 stone because they wouldn't realize that the self-destruct was on by the time that they got on and got to the helm. Well, yeah, but again, that was the whole thing about what was going on, because remember, they see, now you're making me think about which version of the Enterprise it was, because 1701 was destroyed in two. 1701A was the one that they had. It was either A or B that they had in three. I can't remember if it was A or B that they had in three, where they talked about get another ship. Because each one, each one they made changes to. And just to give you the idea, it was D that was in Next Generation. So they went through at least four enterprises before they got to Next Generation. At least four. Yeah, 1701. Okay, the original 1701 was destroyed in two, so that would have meant that in three they would have destroyed the A, 1701A. When they got back for Undiscovered Country, it was 1701B. Then it had to be 1701B. Now you're making me now think about Undiscovered Country and the whole thing about Spock's brother that he never talked about. Yeah, but you have to admit, 1701 was a tank. That was a tank. You have to think about how many battles that 1701 been through. And because Khan actually had experience being on 1701 from the original TV series, he knew what it would take. A was 5 and 6. Then what was the one destroyed in 3? See, that didn't make any. Okay. Now you're making me go through all these different iterations here. Because if A was in 5 and 6, Next Generation was D. B was in Generations because that was the flashback. The flashback happened with B. There was a C in between B and D, and that's where the problem that I have with their timeline. But that was the problem. Now you understand the problem with the timeline, because the TV series was 1701. That was the original 1701. The motion picture had the original 1701. Because remember, it was in Starbase. It was in the Starbase getting retrofitted then in motion picture. So they did not get a brand new Enterprise then. They just got a retrofitted 1701 in NCC 1701. So now you can understand why I'm going through all the whole thing. It's like, no, you're right. That was B in Generations. But where did I'm trying to figure out, where did C come into play, because you went and skipped C to get to D for Next Generation. Yeah, Decker oversee the fit Wildcat. Yeah, that was correct. That's correct. So pretty much after they blew it up in two, after After they blew up the Enterprise in two, they took the rest of that carcass that remained of NC 1701 and they retrofitted again, which would be stupid. But it's movie magic. We don't pay attention to, they act like people don't pay attention to it that much anyway. Again, TV shows writing nonsense. So C is alternate reality. Oh brother. That doesn't make any sense for C to be alternate reality when they're at D. So that would say that Next Generation is an alternate timeline in the first place. It's not the contiguous timeline there. Because you wouldn't go from B to D. There would have been an Enterprise C somewhere down the line here. It's like the ship that was destroyed helping out stop the war. See, that's what I'm saying. They write themselves in circles. They write themselves in circles as far as the generation of the I forgot what Galaxy class starship. They're changing how the Galaxy class starships are here. But it's interesting when you really take a look at the history of NC 1701. It's not the same. It's not the same because again, we don't go through all of this trouble with Voyager or the Excelsior. Oh yeah, people forget about the Excelsior, aka Captain Sudo's ship. I forgot what Beverly Crusher's ship was. Her science ship was Galaxy class too. She had a Galaxy class science ship. I forgot the name of her ship. But we don't go through the same problems with them because they all had different designations here. But the Enterprise outside of the original one, which was what was his name? Captain Archer, which was Scott Bakula. His Enterprise was not NC 1701. It was designated something else. The original Enterprise was designated something else. He was the only one that had a Enterprise that had a different designation here. But then again, that's them messing with everything else with the Star Trek timeline. So it gets very convoluted. Which is why there was no Worf in yesterday's Enterprise because the Klingons and the Starfleet War continued. Yeah, there was no treaty. There was no treaty. The Klingons did not join the Federation at that point. Therefore, Worf couldn't have been. And they never met up with the entity that killed Tasha Yars either. That version of the Enterprise never met up with that entity that eventually killed Tasha Yars. Yep. Yep. Random Klingons and they start the peace talks. Yep. Because again, one of the things that I always tell people, especially if you're in the military, when you fight in the trenches with people, you become, better than brothers. You become better than family. Because at that point, I hold your life in my hands, and you hold my life in your hands, and you have to get along. You have to get along. You have to, let bygones be bygones and be beyond that whole that whole nonsense of all the other stuff that people want to talk about and everything. So yeah, I can see that happening here. But even with what we talked about here, you can see how convoluted tracking every last Enterprise from the original design by Cochrane from Enterprise, from the Scott Bakula Enterprise to where we're at right now with talking about alternate timelines with the whole dang it, the J.J. Abrams to Star Trek Beyond Enterprise that we got now in the movies. It's very convoluted because I think the one that's in the newer movies that we went back to 1701. It's the 1701 all over again in this version of Star Trek and J.J. Abrams Star Trek. But it's very convoluted. It's not as a straight timeline as it is. It kind of loops back because like Parallax says, she's absolutely right. We didn't get B into Generations, and B was a flashback to Kirk when Kirk was still over NC 701, 1701, and he was still captain of the B ship. Just like he was over 1701. Well, actually, Pike was originally over 1701. Then it became Kirk's ship. It got retrofitted twice before we got to A. Generations, we finally get B. And then in Next Generation, we find out that C is it's like some weird alternate timeline that eventually saved the Federation out of the whole Klingon War type deal. And then after all that was said and done, and then we got into the whole Next Generation. We had Generations, First Contact, and Nemesis. Nemesis being the worst one out of those three movies. It's like, come join us, Data. We could give you exactly what you want. We could actually give you a human body, or at least simulate one. Family, oh no, don't bring out dog. Yeah. Enterprise, the original series, Star Trek, Trek 1, 2, 3, A, Trek 4 and 5, B, Generation, C, Yesterday, and D, Next Generation, First Contact. Yep, that would. Well, I still would put an asterisk by that. And again, we keep forgetting about the short-lived Enterprise TV series that predates 1701. And there was another Enterprise before that, before NC 1701. There was another Enterprise before NC 1701. And that's where the real problem comes into play. That it's not a straight line across the board. But we don't talk about that. I haven't watched Picard as of yet, so I would have known about F. And why did I forget about Insurrection? I guess Insurrection was a forgettable movie. Insurrection, I guess, was very forgettable. I forgot all about Insurrection. Wow. That's bad. That's really bad. If I literally forgot that particular Next Generation movie, Insurrection, because I've seen all of them. I've seen all of them in the theater, and Nemesis by far was the worst one. And I haven't watched Picard as of yet, so I wouldn't know about F. So D was retrofitted in season 3, which is correct. The saucer crash, Yeah, I remember that happening in Generations. That's why D always looked funny from that point forward. And to me, the saucer section was a stupid idea in the first place, because why would you have that big of a escape pod? That's an awfully big escape pod when you really think about it. And then for a Galaxy class ship, why would you have that many civilians on it? Aha. As they did in Coming to America. Aha. Aha. That's why I said Nemesis is the worst of them all. Nemesis was very bad for it to be what was supposed to be the final confrontation with the Borg. It was a very bad movie. Extremely bad. All Galaxy class ships were built for war. That's the bad thing about it. Science ships were built more for exploration, but Galaxy class were more built for war. And that's one of the reasons why Beverly Crusher's ship was very weird in the aspect that they actually carried armament. She was like one of the few science ships that actually carry actual live armament on it. That's a very weird fact, very weird Star Trek fact. You know, Sulu's ship was the Galaxy class. It was built for war. D was actually built for war, but it was kind of like in a class on its own, because it was quote unquote the figurehead ship that represented peace amongst all those that was in the Federation. So that's one of the reasons why they had the saucer section, because they had diplomats and all these other civilians on there. Again, one of the reasons why they have their whole staff making command decisions. Unlike in Kirk's day, I have a suggestion. Well, I don't have time to listen for it. We're going to have to do this. Which makes sense. It's like, not too many people would get the captain's ear in the original TV series, as opposed to Next Generation. Next Generation, it was done by committee. And also, you didn't have that many dignitaries on the Enterprise at any one time like they did with Enterprise D. It was a completely different generation of Starfleet by that time. Galaxy class ships were way bigger than what they were back then. So they held more people. But it's just weird that, the whole thing about the saucer section to me was just kind of like weird. Yeah, just like Guinan is like said in yesterday's Enterprise. Yep. This isn't a ship of war, it's a ship of peace. And that was the weird thing about that one particular designation for this D class, because it was the flagship. If the Enterprise came into your sector, it was more for diplomatic purposes. But it was armed. It was armed for war. Because if it was a science vessel or any other vessel, it would not have nowhere near the armament that D had. If I could say it this way, 1701D was, if I could say, was a luxury warship. If I could put it to you that way. It was meant for peace, but you don't want to get into a fight with it. Because why would you need all those photon torpedoes and phaser banks if it wasn't meant for war? Just saying. I'm not saying that they were not on a peaceful mission, because again, that was their whole thing. Because remember, they were not up under the same prime directive that Kirk was, and they stuck with the prime directive more so than Kirk ever did. That's what the Klingon sister basically said in Generation. Yeah, D was nothing more than a luxury, no more than a luxury battleship. All the dignitaries were there and everything, and they felt safe because it could hold its own in war. D was unique in that aspect here. That what makes the whole thing about the saucer section crashing the way that it did so dramatic. Because everybody that was civilian or dignitary eventually, crashed and everything, but at the same time, it made the saucer section irrelevant. It could never be reattached because of how it crashed. And that wasn't the first time that they separated the saucer section. If I remember correctly, I think they did it in like somewhere in between like the fourth and 10th episode, somewhere up in there, because they were about to get into this big drawn out fight, and they separated the two before they could go into that fight, before they went into that so-called fight that they were about to get into. And they eventually met up with the saucer section and reconnected. But that's the weird thing. To say that it was not a warship, it would be a fallacy. It's like, no, it's kind of like a luxury liner that has war weapons on it. Yep. Go to the battle bridge. You remember very correctly. You remember like I do very correctly. They do have a separate bridge for battle. Yep. Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's Star Trek has a very long and interesting history. Very long, very interesting history. And like I said, when you follow the actual different enterprises, it becomes even more interesting here. But I've been talking to you guys for almost 3 hours, and I know Parallax is already into her Sunday already. She's almost 1 hour in. It's almost 1 a.m. there. And I believe Beanie and Lils would probably knocked out sleep. Yeah, the Mission of Farpoint. See, that one, that episode, those episodes, they are cult classics now. The Farpoint mission is cult classic here. That's a cult classic as a whole here. But I will have to bid you guys adieu here, because we almost ran 3 hours here, because we got sidetracked here. Yep, I kind of figured that they would be knocked out. They would be KO. The grueling battle has ended in the victory for Mr. Sandman. Good night. If you know what game that from, the two games that I mentioned there, then you're a pretty good person in my book. And now Parallax is going to try to figure out which two games I just referenced there in saying that. One is obvious. One is very obvious. The second one is not. That's one. That's one of them. That's the more obvious one. The second one, let me know if you want me to tell you. And I can make it easier for you. No, it wouldn't be Little Nemo. I'm going to I'm going to say it to you the way that the actual game would say it to you. The grueling battle has ended for a victory for Shang Fa. You win. Or the grueling battle has ended for a victory for Siegfried. You win. If you played it in the arcade, it was called Soul Blade. If you played it on the PlayStation, it was Soul Edge. No, I got it backwards. In the arcade, it was Soul Edge. On the PlayStation, it was Soul Blade. The Namco game, the Namco weapon fighting game. No, the game that came before Soul Calibur. That's where it originated from. The game that came before Soul Calibur was called Soul Blade, or if you played it in the arcade, it was Soul Edge. Soul Calibur was actually the second game of the series. No, because remember, Soul Blade was on PlayStation 1. That was the original arcade version, the first version of the arcade game of Soul Blade. But yes, Soul Blade eventually became Soul Calibur in its second incarnation. And then we had Soul Calibur 2, 3, 4, and I believe 5 is out right now. But the original, the game that started that whole Soul Calibur franchise was Soul Blade on the PlayStation 1, or in the arcade, it was called Soul Edge. I know, I'm a fighting game head. No, I'm not buying any movies. I'm not buying movies. I actually need to get some sleep. But nonetheless, it is time to say good night, everybody. So, as I always say, live life, grow, and be well. I will see you guys here next Saturday here. And like I stated before, I believe that our last Whatnot show for the year, because I'm not going to do two. I'm not going to do two in the month of December, because the 14th would be the second Saturday in the month, and the next Saturday that would be available would be the 28th, and that would be the week of Christmas. And Christmas is never a good time to try to sell comic books, to be quite honest here, because people are still trying to recover from all the spending and everything. And another weird thing is that Christmas happened in the middle of the week. So people would have that Wednesday off, and then people would have to work that Thursday, Friday. And then New Year's Eve is a Tuesday, and New Year's Day is a Wednesday as well. So we got middle of the week holidays coming up very, very, very soon here. But nonetheless, we'll be back on Whatnot on the 14th to sell more comic books and everything. So until then, I'll see you guys next Saturday. And don't forget, Comic Book Spectrum this upcoming Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. Until then, we're out. Have a good rest of, in Parallax case, have a good rest of your Sunday. And people in my neck of the woods, you got 7 more minutes worth of Saturday left. And if you're on the West Coast, hey, just enjoy the rest of your Saturday. You're the lucky ones, because you're about 2 hours behind us. But anyway, bye, everybody. See you later.